2022 will have brands, advertisers, tech platforms discussing all the trends and more. This virtual event will also look at the latest trends driving the change in consumer behavior and how it has impacted the industry's growth. Covering a gamut of areas across the entire digital ecosystem, this summit intends on bringing all the major stakeholders under one roof and conduct meaningful knowledge sharing sessions, which helps the industry in growing. We have an exciting 5 day sessions packed with some of the best names from the industry. Before we move forward, we request you all to kindly check the agenda for the 5 day summit on our website and check out the sessions planned for you all. We encourage our viewers to share the questions for the speakers in the comments section or on the events chat box. You can also share perspective on the day's proceeding through your social media handles. We can be found at ITV News with a Z on Twitter and Facebook and IndianTelevision.com on Instagram and LinkedIn. Don't forget to use the hashtag DigitalBrandFest 2022. None of this would have been possible without the tremendous support of our partners, and we would like to thank them all. Our presenting partner, Voot, our industry support partner, Interact, a product of GeoHaptic, Josh, and Pixels. The event is produced and executed by ITV 2.0 Productions. Now, let's have a look at a few partners, AV. Vinny, can we have the AV, please?
एक तरफ तस्वीर, एक तरफ तकदीर और बीच में आपका नाचीज कटपीस रणवीर.
Tiger is back.
The big picture, तस्वीर से तकदीर तक.
It's here, and I'm so excited! Yeah!
मेरे साथ बिग बॉस ओटीटी के मजे लूट.
मेरा कुछ चक्कर चल रहा है क्या?
क्या कर रही है तू मेरा? साइको यार.
गेम बहुत लंबा जाएगा लोग.
Oh God, I'm so confused.
अब तो बताना ही पड़ेगा.
Wear your luck this Valentine.
That's what mutual funds are.
Sahil is dead. सुना तुमने? Sahil is dead.
यहाँ पर ओरिजिनलिटी भी है और करोड़ों दिलों का एंटरटेनमेंट भी है.
Thank you, Vinny. Well, now, without much further ado, let's begin with our Power Pack Day, and we begin with our first panel discussion on performance marketing partnerships for good ROI. And for this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Amit Verma, Head of Marketing and Growth from Rapido, Mr. Arun Jayaraman, Head of Marketing, Loyalty, Site Merchandising, and Partnerships from Big Basket. We have Mr. Neil Pandya, Chief Operating Officer, Europe and APAC from Pixels. We have Ms. Sonali Malviya, Managing Director, Essence, Mr. Vimal Venkatram, Managing Director, India from Snowflake, Mr. Wanda Farao, Head of Marketing from Fresh to Home. And this session will be moderated by Ms. Dimpy Yadav, General Manager, Zaxxus India. I welcome you all and over to you, Ms. Yadav.
Thank you, Deenal, for the introduction. And I'm really honored to moderate this session on performance marketing and partnership for good ROI. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. This is a very important topic, as you all know, which leads and impacts many of our businesses. And I'm really thrilled that this session would help us achieve a lot of clarity, especially on how performance marketing is evolving in this new age media. And as you know, that today I'm joined by industry experts carrying decades of rich experience and insights to share with us today. Since we have a very short span, about 50 minutes, let's get right into it with our first question for the panelists and, of course, our audiences. So, Sonali, here it goes for you. As you know, that performance marketing was traditionally, as it sounds, marketing based on performance. However, in current new age media, as we know, that industry has evolved and way too much, and hence the significance of these terms are drastically evolving too. So, how do you really see performance marketing navigating the industry with the new defined mediums and media attributes? And also, what exactly do you think should it really signify in 2022 for our advertisers to focus on?
Hey, Dimpy, good to connect. And we end up being in similar places, but never connecting really. But I'll jump straight into the topic as well. And it's actually quite timely. We have been having a lot of these discussions with our partners and our clients. But I think I want to take a step back before we even start. Marketing has always been to drive performance. Brand metrics of awareness, consideration, intent, preference, and even softer yet harder metrics of brand love were all performance metrics, always, right? Today, what has happened is it has become synonymous with almost like another word for DR. And why DR? Because ROI has become an ROI, and I'll get to what ROI also means, which is one of the reasons why it has become what it has become. But ROI has become the most important determinator of effectiveness. ROI in this case is instant returns via tangible actions in that moment. So when you look at the two, they're actually, one is a lot of long-term thinking and one is a lot about now and here. Not sure if that is doing disservice to a brand or is it the way brands should be going forward. And I think there are arguments to both. At the rate we are growing, getting new users, which is one of the most important things that performance in the context of what we do today actually drives, right? Getting new users. But at the rate India's internet penetration is growing, new users are bound to come. Machine language is actually going to, as we continue to run, we'll become better at it. Machines will keep on optimizing that performance, right? So that effectiveness is continuing to grow. However, I think the one thing I want to say is, so as our AI engines are going to become smarter, efficiencies will keep happening. Now, that's not performance. And if it is, let's not confuse it at least with some of the very core brand metrics of saying loyalty, audience refinement, and brand love are also growing alongside. Because the two are actually two sides of the same coin, and one without the other is actually not very effective. And the last bit for this audience is high stakes on performance, but half the times you don't even remember the brand you just saw. How do you connect with a brand that you don't know and will not know anything about before and after seeing a performance driving ad, not taking any action? So I might have seen it, which becomes a metric of performance, but what good is it for anybody? So to sum up, most importantly, performance cannot be unidimensional. It isn't unidimensional. It is not one thing. Performance is across the entire funnel. And yes, I think we shouldn't be ignoring brand love, loyalty, and consideration, because that's what keeps our people coming back. So yeah, that's my 2 bits.
Right, Sonali, I would say that those 2 bits are really a good and great thought starter, especially when you say that performance is not just for the bottom funnel, but across the channel, across the funnel. Absolutely. I think I cannot just agree more with you. So with the same thought, I would really now want to move on to Arun, you. And as I see, Arun, that especially while Sonali is also talking about brand matrix, like brand love, loyalty, ROI, and new users, I feel that even for you at Big Basket, it's a very comprehensive term, though, which is performance marketing. That it's a combination of paid advertising and brand marketing put together. But we feel that industry still has a lot of gap on how performance marketing is strategized, which goes back to the thoughts that even Sonali has put. So how does Big Basket navigate their strategy between both?
I think Sonali was bang on in terms of how she encapsulated how things are done at present. See, for us, performance, you can't get away from performance marketing, right? It's sort of, the key for customer acquisition. We use it for a bunch of other things as well, for retention campaigns, so on and so forth, right? Engagement, all that. I think where we are as a company, especially, with the advent of all the new players in the market, like what Sonali mentioned, brand love, consideration, etc., becomes the more long-term thing. Things become, more critical, right? It's become a lot more commoditized than where it was, say, prior to COVID, right? So for us, I think over the last 2 years, what we've done is we've, tried to figure out ways to trickle down our brand messages into our performance marketing campaigns as well. Right? Say, for example, we're not only competing, with, say, the likes of a Fresh to Home for meat as a category, but we're also competing with Nykaa for beauty as a category, because in a sense, we are a grocery horizontal, right? To a degree, because we have a bunch of the other categories that we have. So for us, one is you define the positioning or the purpose for the overall mother brand, and then you have a purpose for each of the sub brands that we have, which is, for quick commerce services or category, destination category, brands, or as well as, our offline push that we've sort of taken. So how do we, create processes and frameworks, or framework first thinking, to sort of blend all this into one cohesive sort of messages that we drive on our performance marketing campaigns. We've started with that. We do a lot of consumer research for, for some of the focus categories we have. Meat, for example, I think, we were very price heavy in the beginning, right? And then eventually we figured that, okay, price is not a key, consideration factor for meat as a category, right? We know that quality and freshness, right? Freshness here, I mean, quickness of delivery, farm to fork freshness, so on and so forth. I think those are the things that are more critical. And once we imbibe some of those, some of those learnings or insights into our performance marketing campaigns, automatically things started moving upwards, right? We've seen some growth in the category, traffic, so on and so forth. So I think it's pretty critical. I won't say that there's a direct link yet. There are still some gaps, because of the size of the business that we operate in. But I think there is a clear case of, like a push from within, right, to sort of make this blend happen. So that's where I live.
Right, very well said, Arun. I think, and it's always great to hear advertiser perspective and their point of view, because when we talk about performance and growth, I think that's where the matrix really are pulled off from. So I think I would really want to understand also Amit's point of view, because Amit, you carry a decade of global experience when it comes to performance and growth marketing. So if I have to ask you, like, what shall be the top 3 focus areas for most advertisers, especially in a time where digital first strategy is at its prime? So I really want to hear you, Amit.
So, first of all, thanks, Dimpy, for having me here. Hello, fellow speakers. Hello, everyone. I think Sonali and hey, Sonali. So I think Sonali and Arun has set up a context very well, right? So ultimately, whenever we are talking about marketing, it's holistic marketing, where we are talking about branding, performance marketing. Now, if we have to talk about 3 things which advertisers or brands are focusing in today's era, I think the first thing is which comes in the starting, which actually exists in the earlier concepts of marketing as well. Know your customer, right? I believe you should know your customer, who your customer is, which kind of sites they are browsing, which kind of apps they are using, which kind of a purchase behavior they have, so that you can target them at a right time, at a right place. Like if you talk about different kind of industries, big basket, maybe Rapido, so there is a different kind of a lead time when it comes to a conversion, right? Some brands have a lead time of 1 month, 3 months when it comes to OEMs of car manufacturers. And then if you talk about our category, where the lead time is hardly 5 minutes or 4 minutes, right? So it's very critical that how you can engage with the user at what time. Where in e-commerce, normally browsing happens in afternoon and purchase happens somewhere towards midnight. So it's very important that you reach out to a user at a right time, at a right place. The second thing which I wanted to highlight, I think we are talking about partnerships, right? So every brand has to focus on partnerships. I will tell you why. So whenever we are talking about Google, Facebook, so ultimately brands are spending millions and billions of dollars on Facebook and Google, but essentially what they are doing, they are actually capitalizing the distribution network which all these partners have, right? Whether it's a Facebook or Google, they have a 600 million plus reach, or Facebook used to claim they have 500 million plus reach, right? So actually they are reaching out to these number of users. You can get the same benefit if you can do a tie-up with the brands like maybe Paytm, Big Basket, or some other brands who has a pretty good penetration into an Indian market. So it will provide you a best buck for your ROI, to be very honest, right? The third thing, which we always keep on looking in a performance marketing, because I think when we were talking about traditional marketing and a performance marketing, the basic difference which keeps on coming is you can reduce the spillover, right? When you are doing like a normal ATL branding, then you cannot control the audience which you are targeting. Definitely, you have like a demo, geo, by which you can control the audience pool, but certainly you cannot minimize the spillover which is happening. There is a certain kind of a spillover which always comes with a plan, right? But when you are doing a performance marketing, the best thing which you can do, you can reduce this spillover, and then you can also talk about the lifetime value of a user, which we always keep on like a checking that which channel is providing me best LTV, whether it's a Facebook, Google, retargeting, or maybe programmatic of the world or affiliates of the world, right? So by these 2 or 3 things, maybe you can optimize your ROI and you can grow your brand further.
Right. Amit, I think I cannot, say anything more on the fact when you talk about the importance of, knowing your customer and their behavior. And I think that's the nerve of this point right now, even the times we're in. So, and it really adds a lot when you say, that, controlling spillover is also another key area and a point where we all must focus on, even as an advertiser. So I think we would really like to have Vimal right now, because when we talk about Vimal at Snowflake, I think it's very important to understand how data utilization can happen and can really build on your point. So Vimal, as you know that in today's new age media, world is very predominantly going heavy on data utilization. So what do you suggest advertisers to keep into consideration, especially, while planning their performance marketing strategy? And do you think, shall they define a specific data-centric approach as well?
Dimpy, great question. And Sonali, Arun, and Amit laid out, wonderful concepts as well for the audience and the panelists here. So first up, thanks so much for having me here. From our perspective, data is paving the way for new approaches to advertising, media, and entertainment. I think as viewers, media consumption habits are evolving, thanks to the pandemic, there's a lot of change in the habits in the way people consume content. Advertising, media, entertainment companies must stay one step ahead of their customers to deliver personalized content and experiences. But I think what we're also seeing, as Sonali was mentioning, with the growth of the internet, the amount of data that customers are generating is growing exponentially. It's no longer a linear sort of growth in data. And this becomes a challenge because gaining insights into audience preferences should also be, you should do it in conjunction with customer privacy regulations, for example. Just one of the many hurdles companies must overcome to provide engaging and customized experiences. So when you look at leading broadcasting companies, advertising agencies, OTT platforms, gaming companies, they choose Snowflake's data cloud platform to solve their data challenges and empower their organizations to become truly data-driven. To give you some key points when you're considering how to unlock data, you talk about combining your consumer and advertising data. So break free of all your data silos, getting a single source of truth. The second, everyone spoke about accelerating time to insight. How can you make informed and timely decisions with unlimited analytical scale and reliable on-demand performance? And finally, to the point that I mentioned, how do you securely share consumer data across various internal or external data users while complying to consumer privacy regulations? Now, today, when we look at how Snowflake is being consumed by, let's say, ad tech, advertising, or even marketing firms, they're using us for multiple use cases, analyzing and enriching customer data to increase campaign effectiveness, drive media adoption, and even define media mix, for example. We have online gaming companies who are enhancing gameplay experience and then personalizing in-game offers. When you look at digital and traditional media entertainment companies, you're looking at how do you enhance content development, acquisition, and monetization? How do you improve content personalization and optimize recommendation engines? I think one of the key customers that we work with, one of the brands is Disney's advertising sales, which is responsible for the entire advertising sales and integrated marketing for the Walt Disney Company's entertainment and sports offerings through both linear, digital, social, as well as the ad-supported streaming business. They're leveraging the power of our media data cloud. And Disney Advertising Sales has launched an innovative new clean room initiative. Now, this is a solution using Snowflake technology, and this is also powered by their cutting-edge first-party data offering called Disney Select. Now, Disney's Advertising Sales Clean Room offers one point to Disney's portfolio of all brands across all the screens. Now, what we're looking at is how do Disney owned media properties, for example, gain access to more than 1,000 user segments built from Disney's intelligent data set for scalable and targeted analytics. Now, thanks to Snowflake's technology, Disney's customers can become a lot more informed about the benefits of engaging with Disney Select's data assets in multiple different ways and across multiple different platforms.
Right, Vimal. I think very well said. And I think few points that I really found very enriching that you have made are like, informed, timely decisions, how, data should be utilized and how that really helps advertisers, I'll say, gain more control, especially when you talk about, consumer privacy regulation, which we are planning to cover further in this panel if time allows us. And also very interestingly, personalization engines. So I think when we are talking about data, I think we also know that at the same end, when you talk about activation of data, technology really plays a bigger role. So I would move over to Neil, because Neil, I think you can really add a lot of insights here. As you know that with data being the buzzword for 2021 and 2022, it's also very crucial for brands to leverage data on their campaigns with the right strategies, and especially, most importantly, technology. So Neil, what is your suggestion when it comes to technology? Like, how should brands effectively and very efficiently activate their data sets on and cohorts?
Yeah, thank you, Dimpy. Big hello to everyone who's around. Dimpy, I think you're right. I mean, data is crucial. Data-driven marketing is what the world needs. Even in the last 20 minutes, I have heard data as a word more than 20 times or 30 times. So that's how the importance of the word data is there. This is a large chunk of data available in the market with marketeers, but how to put data manually effective is becoming the difficult task for a lot of marketers. And that's where technology comes into place. I mean, technology in a very simple way will analyze every bit of data which you have and help you to get into a right implementation of strategies what you have. I mean, that's the basic use of any technology. I mean, we all know tech is there in digital marketing at multi-level, multi-purpose. There's tech for analytics, there's tech for fraud, there's tech for even customer experience. So how you use the tech in your right direction is what most of the marketers need to do it. I think the demand, which I think Sonali mentioned earlier, is that more and more marketers need to use tech at all the funnels. I mean, you don't need to keep tech only into the bottom funnel. But Sonali, I think the hard fact is a lot of marketers are chasing. When I was in L'Oreal or Vodafone, I was chasing the lower funnel because of the obvious reasons. Because there was crisis, there was pandemic. We need to ensure we have a better ROI. So, but it's really important that we have tech across all stages, and tech which provides the best ROAS importance or the best acquisition importance is getting adopted. But before I go into adoption of tech, I think, Dimpy, there are three things which most of us there are three rules, I believe, always for a tech adoption. I mean, first of all, do not alienate yourself from tech. I have heard marketers with multiple myths. And when I was a marketer, I had initially those myths as well. The first biggest myth is that tech is expensive. Obviously, you buy a product or you buy a cloth, it will come with some money or some fee attached to it. But if you look at that fee and tell it is expensive and do not adopt tech, it's not the right way to evaluate a tech. I mean, look at how that tech is helping you to bring in better attribution or better ROI, and that will obviously fund for itself. And rather than funding for itself, it will give you more efficiencies and more returns. I believe the second rule is do not adopt tech because everyone in the room is adopting tech. I mean, yaar, mere dost ne kiya, Big Basket ne kar liya, so someone else is trying to do it. Adopt tech basis the customization which is available in the market. And I believe, I mean, there are multiple techs available basis your own need. Go ahead, identify, spend time, test it, and then adopt it. And rule 3 is that don't forget rule 1 and 2. And once you have put all of this in place, the only rule for tech adoption which marketers need to follow religiously is to let tech do what it is supposed to do. It have confidence in tech. I mean, if you start judging tech on day one that yaar ye kuch nahi kar raha hai, I mean, my manual intervention or my team was doing a brilliant job, then what I have started putting into tech. I think if you don't give time, if you don't give confidence to tech, you will land up getting into something which is not really effective and efficient for you. So that's where I would like to end that, tech is important, tech is everywhere, but definitely use the tech in the right frame and have confidence in tech. You'll get your objectives achieved very efficiently.
Right, Neil. And I think I can use as a tagline which says, do not alienate from tech. And that's really cool and very interesting. But I think that's a great point when you also say that do not adopt tech, but go for customization. So I would say it in this way that do not adopt standardization, but go for customization. Yeah. So I think that really takes us to Vanda, because when I talk about at Fresh to Home, the real-time availability of products and especially wide range of offerings makes it extremely important for the brand to target audiences at the right time using right data sets. So definitely no standardization can work here. I'm sure a lot of customization is going into picture. So we really want to understand from you that how do you plan your performance marketing campaigns, especially keeping this challenge in consideration to drive ROI, to drive ROAS, because I think those are the terms that everybody wants to focus on at the end.
Thanks, Dimpy. My name is Vanda, so a little bit of correction in that. But yeah, nice to be on this panel and hello to all the fellow panelists. Yes, you have dropped a big buzzword, ROI. That's what everyone's talking about. That's what we have to tell our bosses all the time. That's the question we are asked all the time. And this panel actually has discussed a rich array of points, which, it is not binary, it's not black and white. It is a very dynamic space. Cut to what Sonali said, that it's not unidimensional. I mean to say, there has to be brand love, right? People have to like your ad to be able to even interact with it. And then Amit spoke about spillovers, right? We see people or consumers in silos and channels as such. There's always that spillover which we actually see. And Arun, I mean to say, you and I are sailing in the same boat. It is e-grocery, e-meat, and we are competing for consumers with the same platform. So yes, it is for us at Fresh to Home, it is very dynamic, as I say, because it's fresh meat and seafood, which has a shelf life only of, say, 48 hours. Now, how do I actually go out to these consumers to be able to make them transact? And ultimately, at the end of the day, ROI is conversion. So yes, the good thing is we have a lot of solutions right now, which are we are able to actually reach consumers, at the right time and also show relevant offerings. So we use an array of services, for example, shopping ads, dynamic ads, and also DCO, which is dynamic creative optimization. It was first on DV, but now actually is democratized. So all these actually help us in a way in which we can show the relevant portfolio to the consumer. I mean to say, if I show, for example, chicken curry cut to a consumer in, say, Indranagar in Bangalore, and he comes and it's not available, it's really bad, right? It will result in no conversions. So I have to be really, really careful and particular. And see, at the end of the day, the second part of the question is you have to understand the consumer at the core, right? His interactions with your category. So he's not a nameless, faceless being in which you just spam him all the time through different channels. You have to understand it. So what we do is through data, through understanding the consumer and picking up a lot of insights, right? We tailor make our campaigns also to deliver better conversions and hence better ROI. I'll give you an example. We are shortly launching a category which is ready to fry snacks, right? And what you understand from the consumer is this is choti bhook. This is what assails the consumer at 4 o'clock to 5 o'clock when you have those pangs of hunger. So why should I show my ads through the day? Because that's actually happening. And being a platform which also gives you 60-minute delivery, there's no wait time, right? So I show my ads, right, because of DCO right now between 2 to 5. And then I see it is so relevant, right? It's so contextual. Actually, there is a conversion. I was reading an example the other day about, it's hot and humid in Chennai. And contextually, I mean to say, through APIs, you pull out the weather, you see the temperature, and then you say, oh, it's such a hot and sunny day, why don't you wear your sunscreen? So all these things effectively, which is data, understanding consumer and deploying channels, right? And right now, because of technology, we have a wide array of products which can actually reach consumers better and, get better conversions. So all these things actually help in effectively giving us a better ROI.
Right. Vanda, first of all, I'll say extremely challenging because, when the kind of product is where your shelf life is 48 hours, I think you really understand what DCO really kind of, leaves an impact and what is real-time optimization is and how customization needs to play a game because it's not just test for you, but I think that's the necessity. So,
and on the edge every day, actually,
exactly.
In real time.
Right. Because your product is such that you cannot, you cannot take that risk at all for that. And especially when you talk about time span, which is, I think, very crucial to understand that when you talk about your campaigns, your customization, it just goes beyond, just basic level of targeting, but to understand what is that moment for your audience to consume your product, and when should be the right time to even show the ad. So definitely bang on there. And going forward to Sonali, I would really understand from you, as Vanda has made such really great, I'll say, points across driving, especially ROI. So when we are offering, we are hearing this in this panel, which is making data-driven decisions, which is helping us to drive the brand's ROI. So how do you really see any change in targeting options playing a role, especially when you talk about upcoming media world known as cookieless?
Hey, thanks. It was really fun listening to everybody, and there's so many points of connection with everybody. But Neil, I'll just add one thing to before I move on to the answer for Dimpy. You talked about technology, and Vanda, you talked about how insights are fueling as much effectiveness as possible for everything, and that brings me to one important point, which is data and technology with a purpose. Without that, and I think, Neil, that could probably be the fourth point in what you said about technology, to say that without a purpose, it's like data everywhere, nobody knows what to do with it. And I think that comes back to what you were saying, Vanda, as well. But coming back to the cookieless world, it has become a buzzword. It scares half the world, the other half pretends that they know everything about it, but regardless, it is a buzzword. Fact: industry is moving towards greater privacy. Fact number 2, advertisers shouldn't assume that they will have access to consumers' data or consumers' digital footprint or digital data, or unless they can convince consumers that they deserve it. Fact number 3, deprecation of IDs is coming, and it will impact targeting, scale, measurement, and attribution unless we figure out a way around that, right? Therefore, in a cookieless world without identifiers, there are a few things that we need to get back to the basics with, right? We have a runway. It is not like it's happening tomorrow. It is the best time to audit, figure out how ready are we to live in this world, right? And be successful, given that the world that we knew is changing, right? Number 2, testing and learning. There isn't a bigger proof of concept than your own campaigns, your own consumers, testing and learning and figuring out what works and what doesn't work so that you can continue to optimize. That isn't going away anywhere. And for that, you don't need IDs, right? Number 3, product development. And Vimal, you talked about that, right? So product development, and when we were talking about saying, how do you design groundbreaking solutions to navigate the identity challenge, assess risk, create roadmaps to focus. The point is, this is not about one size fits all. This is about saying you have to create bespoke solutions based on, what is your product distribution approach, relationship with customers, life stage, tech stacks, ethics principles, and the works. And Vimal talked a lot more in detail about what that means. But most importantly, the most important thing right now is that this is a great opportunity to do a reality check. Maybe it is time to rethink what integrated, what could be our new approach to marketing. It's not like marketing is net new. We have been doing a lot of work, and marketing has driven a lot of performance, right? It is possible to build brands without identifiers across all dimensions, top of the funnel, middle funnel, end of the funnel, everywhere, right? Call it coming a full circle or a level playing field, but it is a really great time to put all our data and learning together, strengthen it with tech solutions, enable comprehensive insights with a purpose towards holistic business growth. So, like I said, ultimately, yes, cookies are going away. For people who were born in the cookie world, it feels like the end of it, an era and an end of the world, but it isn't. Because there are 100 solutions, and the privacy sandbox topics, all of that is now about saying, how do we redefine, how do we move forward in a world where data isn't, or a customer's digital data isn't your right. So yeah, I think it's a great new world to experiment, learn, evolve, and move forward.
Absolutely, Sonali, and great to hear you, especially, when I have Sonali, you from agency, your perspective, absolutely correct. Then I also have advertisers on this panel. And I really, like this tagline, just full circle or level playing field, decide for yourself. And also, Sonali, absolutely right when you say, that deprecation of IDs is coming. We cannot run away from it. But at the same time, we need to know that we do have a runway. So we need to be ready for the new world, right? And especially when we talk about testing and learning, or I remember you said creating bespoke solutions. I think this is the time when many such solutions have already also been into adoption. So Arun, I would really want to, ask you that, especially when we talk about cookieless world. So along with this cookieless world, we have also seen massive adoption of omni-channel approach, which is another bespoke solutions which has been created in this, which is just helping us drive higher ROIs for brands with more efficiency and I'll say effective budget allocation. So what is your take when it comes to omni-channel approach? And have you really tried and tested any of this or any other bespoke solution for Big Basket or any plans in 2022?
See, I'm not sure about the omnichannel approach, cookieless world. I think those are pretty new terminologies for us. I think we've always taken an omnichannel approach for marketing, right? If you've sort of, I'm not sure if you've followed Big Basket, but I think we've always been very print heavy, right? Our belief is that, with print and TV is the largest source of awareness, right? And whenever we run these ads, we always see an uptick in, top of the funnel in terms of visitor sessions, all of that. It might or might not convert into orders, but at least, your brand is out there, right? So that's one piece. Second is right now we have a lot of first party data, meaning, we have a bunch of different business models, right? For example, we just launched our offline store. I'm not sure if you know about that. So we, a lot of those customers are existing Big Basket online customers who sort of try to buy a category which is more offline friendly, which is fruits and vegetables, right? So we have some part of the some of the data with us already. So we sort of use that to create a lot of interesting insight-led campaigns with them. So my point is that we've taken this approach always. I don't think this is like a large challenge yet for us, and predominantly most of our spends are on Google and Facebook, and they have their own data sets, and that sort of helps us as well. But going forward, I think yes, we also have to evolve as a marketing team, ROI, etc. We've learned over time. It's not like that's something which is already readily available, right? So in terms of budget allocation, etc., is all it's a time tested thing that we've done. But eventually, I think with the hope that we want to sort of get in the next leg of customers onto Big Basket, so we might have to take a different approach, and that's where I think this will become a lot more critical. And we are also learning along with everyone else.
Right, Arun, fair enough. I think, every brand has a journey, which is when you start crawling, then walking and running. And of course, you have to go through each phase together. So it's great to hear that, you tried and you started your testing and learn phase, especially when you're focusing so heavy on first party data. Great about it. But at the same time, when we talk about omni-channel, so Amit, I would like to hear your perspective again, because you also come from an advertiser background to us, and you'll be able to add a lot of insight. So with omni-channel approach being in discussion, we heard, Arun from Big Basket, but when it comes to Rapido, we want to understand that, it really brings a very important metric on the table, which is measurement of the campaigns and their efficacy. So when you're investing in digital marketing, it's likely that you will be engaged in several different channels at the one time, right? So how does tracking attribution plays a role for you at Rapido?
Sure. So Dimpy, I think as Arun was rightly saying, that there is a broader channel mix or broader media mix, right? Where it's a $1 billion question for all the advertisers, that how they can fine tune and how they can figure out the attribution and how they can optimize their media budget. There is a no thumb rule, to be very honest. I think we all are just trying our hands and trying to figure out that which channel is giving best ROI, which kind of a media mix we can select, right? But when it comes to performance marketing, I think it's much easier. When it comes to offline branding or traditional branding, right? When we are talking about TV, print, radio, outdoors, right? I think people are doing it media mix modeling from eras or maybe from decades, right? Where they're just trying to figure out which medium or media vehicle is giving best ROI. But when it comes to performance marketing, I think the best part is when you're talking about Rapido, we are 100% digital brand. So like all the bookings come digitally. So we have a benefit that we can track data. Second, most of the advertisers, I think everyone is using some kind of a MMP, right? So whether it's an AppsFlare, whether it's an Edges. So actually that is a tool which logically provides you attribution, right? There are different kind of models as well, which talks about the attribution whether it's a Markov, Google data-driven attribution, weighted average, and they're like a different kind of a models, right? But I think people are using those models on a basis of the conversion window and on a basis of at which stage they are in their life cycle. Let's suppose they are into a growth stage where they want to put a lot of effort on acquisition, and then there are a few brands like Flipkart or Amazon, which has already reached to a saturation or maybe maturity phase, right? Where they're not putting a lot of efforts on acquisition, they are putting a lot of efforts on retention. But if you're talking about tracking and attribution, I think mostly people are using third-party models, right? Which will provide you that which channel is providing attribution, because everyone is using omni-channel, right? Facebook, Google, affiliate, all these channels are, and the problem is that the way we want a growth, even these channels are not sufficient so that they can provide us a growth. So we have to fast. I think that is the beauty of a startup, that we have to grow at a really fast pace, and we are bound to do activities on all kind of omni-channel. The second thing is, if you're talking about the tracking, I think certainly whenever you're talking about, when you use any kind of a tech stack, right? Any kind of MMP, but still there would be some kind of arbitrage between maybe Facebook, Google, and your own DB. You have to live with it. You can just try to reduce it, but that is a problem which everyone is facing, like wherever I'm talking or whomsoever I'm talking. I think there is some kind of arbitrage. You have to figure out a middle ground, that how you can attribute channels and how you can figure out ROI, whether it's on the basis of organic uplift, whether on a basis of install, or maybe a different event within a funnel. But people have figured out their own ways. So there's no fixed thumb rule which is applicable for everyone. But yeah, there is a science behind it which people are using.
Absolutely, Amit. I think, and whenever you talk about especially ROI, where you say, what gives the best ROI, I think that remains one of the best questions and very important to reflect upon. You're right. Each advertiser, each brand needs to look at its own, ways of working, especially when it comes to channel optimization or the media mix. And absolutely, when you say that measurement and attribution, that plays a major role, I think I cannot agree more, because when you're talking about especially omni-channel approach, that really goes back on the pillars of attribution and on measurement. So, when you're talking about especially optimizing your campaigns towards the best channel, which is giving you a higher ROI. So, Neil, I would want to really hear from you that, how do you see technology playing a role, especially when it comes to optimizing the performance across, I'll say, core pillars, not just inventory, but also creative and also measurement? Neil, you're on mute.
Yeah, hi David. Sorry. So I'm going to pick my answer basis what all of them have said and how tech is going to fix in each one of their problems. I think Sonali mentioned earlier that, so tech is important for optimizing at 3 levels. One is optimizing bid and budget, second is targeting, and third is basically your creative. And an overarching of entire thing is measurement or attribution, which Amit mentioned. So I'm going to pick some of the points which all of you said and how tech will help you to answer that. So, I mean, on the point of Sonali, I mean, there are digital planners, marketing team, digital marketeers who are currently dependent without tech on bid and budget. Either they are manually doing it or they are dependent on what the platform guys are giving it. I'm not naming any platform right now, but whatever the platform guys are giving available. Let's be very honest. Platform guy has bid that bid and budget to ensure to keep his revenue in mind, not to give entire revenue back to the customer. So in this spaces, tech becomes really important. So tech will come in picture as a between layer between a manual intervention and what the platform guys are doing, and will think from a perspective what is the right way to bid and budget. And it's practically impossible manually doing a digital planner to day in day out to do those bidding and budgeting. Coming on the targeting segment, imagine Vanda, there are multiple, you're targeting an audience obviously who's a meat lover. So if you are targeting me with chicken, I'm going to buy it tomorrow, your perspective. But imagine you're targeting someone who's not eating meat, or in fact is religiously not eating meat, and you target that guy. You might get that guy as a potential user because you would have liked that particular ad on a platform through someone else or XYZ, but you don't know really how you're going to reach out. You're going to become you're going to get a guy who is really irritated with your communication. So tech here comes into picture, which is more of a real-time learning rather than only the platform which are available giving you the targeting opportunity. Imagine I don't like your ad. I am not a chicken eater. I will immediately learn on its own, and I will ensure that I don't show again and again the same ad to you. So targeting is really important. I mean, Amit, you mentioned attribution. I mean, there is apps flyer, there is adjust, there's a lot of other attribution which is available in the market. But all the platforms currently which are available, which are giving the attribution number, maybe a Google GA or a Facebook campaign manager XYZ, you would have 100% come across a problem where there is a discrepancy between what that number is shown on that campaign manager and what is your source of truth backend. So that's where again tech comes into picture, where tech will optimize your marketing campaign basis your source of truth, not what a dashboard is being shown at that level. And all of this, I'm going to be very subtle in selling fixes. All of it's done is ad fixes, targeting, optimizing, and attribution. I don't want to mention that at all, but that's how tech will play important, Dimpy, across all of the marketing requirement.
Thanks, Neil. And I think I really agree with you, not just as a marketer, but also as an individual, where I know that how these customizations and technology and right targeting is also, making me spend my hard-earned money on the products that at the end I really want to buy. So absolutely, with you. And when you say that, tech is helping as a bridge with manual intervention, I think that really adds a lot here. And in interest of time, I would really like to pick up last two questions. So going on to you, Vimal, because Neil has made some very important arguments when it comes to activation of data measurement targeting, especially using technology, because that's where this all boils down to. And we've heard all the panelists talking about it. So even our listeners would be very keen to understand the role of insights here, because when we're talking about targeting, when we're talking about right placement, right cohorts, it's important we understand who these audiences are when our campaigns are delivered. So can you help us understand how automation and platform integration can help us drive insightful summaries of the campaigns, I'll say?
Sure, Dimpy, great question. First up, picking up on what Sonali was talking about, third-party removal of cookies, and to what Vanda was talking about, Choti Book. I think I had a little bit of Choti Book for cookies at that point in time. But it's a very interesting topic. Arun also brought out the topic of a lot of first-party data with Big Basket, for example. So I think from our perspective, insights, it really starts with, for example, when I have more customer data, it leads to better insights on customer behavior, and it creates more avenues for impactful marketing messages. To Vanda's point, where you were trying to target, folks in Chennai in a particular weather pattern, whether it was very hot and sultry, using an API, for example, or Arun's point of having a lot of first-party data. Now, here is exactly where solutions like Snowflake, where we enable secure data sharing between multiple folks, whether internally within your organization, to second-party, or even consuming third-party data, whether it is weather data, whether it is demographic data, for example, while maintaining customer privacy, all the safeguards, for example. This becomes extremely important today to gain insights, where today, let's say we don't have third-party cookies or even access to the underlying data within the so-called walled gardens of the internet giants. Businesses today need to collaborate and share data securely with each other. Now, this is extremely important because beyond just understanding your customers, companies can use these kind of insights gained from data, whether it's your own first-party data or you've got it from second-party or even data sharing with third-party. You can identify the right channels that can effectively connect for them with the desired outcomes. Now, obviously today, artificial intelligence, machine learning is extremely important, and insights obtained from both AI and ML analysis, provide companies the opportunity to personalize these marketing campaigns based on data specifics to individual customers. And among the various marketing initiatives where this analysis can come in handy are, for example, direct mails, websites, social media, or even in-store marketing events. But I think increasingly, one of the biggest benefits of operating in an advanced analytics environment, which is very impactful to a business, is for companies to store data in a single location, which provides a huge additional layer of privacy as well.
Right, absolutely, Viral. I think when you're talking about especially privacy and technology and data playing a bigger role there, I think it's highly important that all of us as marketeers, start putting a bit of focus onto those points, because I think that's where our strategies would be crafted. So we have a lot of questions to be discussed today, though, but in lieu of time, Wanda, lastly, we would be very keen to hear your thoughts, especially when it comes to insights and extracting valuable measurement metrics from a campaign, especially when you talk about your brand where the shelf life is 48 hours. I think you would know better than anybody else how insights are playing a bigger role here. So how much weightage do you think you give to a campaign insights, and are there any third-party tools or platforms that you also use for the same?
Yeah, I thanks, Dimpy. I mean to say you made the statement I know best. but there is no cookie cutter approach, right? Amit mentioned and resonated so well. There is a no thumb rule. We learn as we go, right? Because imagine how complex it is. My communication for a consumer in Bangalore and Bombay, which is about convenience, right? When I go to Ongole, I go to Warangal, I go to Trichy. I mean to say, it's not same size fits all. A Malayali really likes his sardine, a Bengali likes his rohu katla and hilsa, right? So it's fairly matrixed, it's fairly complex, and in the entire thing, how we become efficient is very, very important. So what we do is there is a campaign, right? There may be a new city launch, new category launch, etc. And there are channels, right? So the campaign has a goal and the channels also have objectives. It is a one-to-one mapping, right? And according to the goal of the campaign, we choose the closest objective available on the channel. For example, is it reach, it's awareness, app installs, or is it in-app conversion, right? So basis the campaign goal, the closest objective to the channel, we deploy it. And then we measure it. We use adjust actually to check it. And as we put it out there, right, there are lots of learnings which actually come. It's not the campaign is over, okay, fine, next. So basis that, we actually have a sheet called, the experiments we've done and what are the learnings. And there are so many which have actually come about, which actually help us. I'll just give you two examples. So that, for Google search, right, there are multiple bidding strategies for the brand keyword. So the vanity metric also is that we always say that we optimize to be always present on top number one position. And for a lot of us, because we are asked by bosses, by investors, when they actually see, so we used to do that, right? We see the impression share on the first position and we are very, very focused. But after a point of time, we realize, is this really coming back to the previous point of ROI? Is it delivering, right? When does vanity metrics? So then we said, let's start something new. Can we do something on optimizing for ROI? So ROI, yes, it is a trade-off, but it actually delivers business, right? So this is the learning which actually came about. It was an insight. The other one I would say is about videos, right? We know that longer formats obviously are better, the CPM is cheaper, and engagement also is better. But ultimately, if you actually see who comes, what is the conversion, right? Who comes and actually makes a transaction? If you go to the entire thing, you realize that shorter formats actually work. And it is not to say that, brand messaging and all is important, but when it comes to hard-coded metrics, right? We saw that 15 seconds actually work. So all these learnings which come from campaigns, right? We distill it and we optimize for subsequent campaigns to be able to deliver better. So we balance it out in a very nice, balanced way. So insights, I think, is key. Having adjust also. Yeah, so that was my take on this.
Yeah, Vanda, I think great a lot. I mean, when I hear you, especially when you talk about let's optimize for ROI and you say no size fits all, which is of course all of us do. But when you say that your objectives has to match the campaign goal, I think that's where you go. That's where it's like you're digging deeper. It was great having all of you on the panel. And I think, Vanda, nothing could be a better closing line to the session than when you say, don't focus to be on the top placement, but focus to optimize on ROI. Because I think that's where we all need to go as a marketer. And that's what we call as new age media, right? So our performance marketing is no more traditional, but as you rightly quoted that, let's optimize for ROI and not just focus for lower CPMs or just to be on the top placements. So I think that's where the quality metric comes out. That's where we tell that, okay, this is the new age media where we focus on outcomes, where we focus on ROAS and ROIs, and that's how we define our strategy. So it was absolutely great, known for me at least. I heard a lot from you all. And thank you so much for having me on this panel as a moderator.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on the panel.
Over to you, Deenal. Deenal, you're on mute.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you all for this interesting discussion, and I'm sure our audience has got a lot of points to note down. Well, we now move on to the next panel discussion of the day on digital marketing, the new dynamic shift post-pandemic. And for this session, I would like to welcome Mr. Ashish Agrawal, VP Growth from BharatPay, Mr. Bharat Khatri from Chief Digital Officer, Asia Pacific from Omnicom Media Group, Mr. Chirag Taneja, co-founder and CEO GoQuick, Michelle Francis, General Manager, Godrej Corporate Brand and Communications, Ms. Neha Pandey, Business Head, Adlib, although she was unable to join due to a personal emergency. And we have Mr. Puneet Singhvi, CEO, Digital and President, Corporate Strategy from Network 18 Media and Investments Limited. He also had a personal emergency at his home, so he was not able to join. And the session will be moderated by Mr. Chetan Ashel, CEO from Tonic Worldwide Media. I welcome you all and over to you, Mr. Chetan.
Thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Hi, everyone. Good to be here and good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. So I'll dive right in. I think pandemic has brought a lot of changes, right? I think as a society also we've changed and there are a lot of shifts that have happened, right? And one thing that has happened is that digital marketing has changed. At the same time, digital marketing has suddenly, has got which was long due, has got the most important seat on the marketing table now, right? So that is another change that has happened. So while for a consumer brand there have been a lot of shifts, and we would, digital payments have changed. Ashish can obviously tell us a lot more about it. But I'm really curious to see what has changed for a corporate brand, and I'm coming to you, Michelle. You can tell us what has changed for a corporate brand, what shift digital has brought.
So thank you so much and welcome all. We have a small panel since two people have backed out. But yeah, so I have a good news and a bad news to share. So I would start obviously with the good news. The digital universe is forever changing, right? It's dynamic and it's changing every now and then. And the bad news is that the good news is that the digital universe is changing, right? So it opens up an ocean of opportunities for us, right? We can be the early adopters that are favored by the algorithms. I have a little tweak in the topic post-pandemic and right now, right? Pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. I firmly believe that the digital space has changed so much over the time that what we used to do before, our strategy, our approach, and everything that we did before may not be valid right now. Though COVID has taught us, has done a little COVID cleaning for us, and we managed to, get rid of resource draining, non-value added processes. But we are here for the long game, right? So you want to be, when you're planning your brand promotions and when you're planning something for your brand, you want to plan what you are going to be seen 10 years from now and not jump onto a brand wagon that is trending. So I think that there's nothing pre and post. It was forever changing. Yet, but there were certain things that spiked up during the pandemic, and everyone would agree to that, right? Habit change in our country is not that easy. We're still teaching people how to wear masks and wear helmets while we move out of the house. So there were certain things during the pandemic phase that took a spike, but Indian behaviors are not going to change. So the smarter move for marketers, I believe, is to latch on to the existing behaviors. There were certain things that took a trend, right? Online shopping was there from the very beginning. But during this phase, we saw a spike in online shopping and we saw people, and now if brands don't have their D2C platforms and are not there in the market space, I'm sure you're not going to survive, right? So there are trends that we saw, which were any which ways habits that were there even pre-COVID, right? So a smarter thing for marketeers is to latch on to the existing trends that are there, which will then help us sail through a longer time frame, not ride on to current trends or something that is very sporadic and just there for a short time to stay.
So I would agree to that digital ecosystem was actually changing. It's just that the pandemic has accelerated it, I would say.
Yep.
Right. So the pace of change was very small. Now it has like accelerated, and there is a major shift now, right? So pre and post, if you see, the habits have changed. The kind of, so when let's say any digital marketer thinks about doing digital marketing, right? How do you actually approach it, right? You first think about who are your target customers, right? And what kind of digital platforms you would find them on, right? So the kind of consumption which is happening now has changed, that the kind of platforms which are being used now has changed, right? So I think the video viewing was not that high earlier, which is now very high, right? And the kind of platform which are being used. So I was seeing some data for US also, the share of online shopping in the overall GDP of the country. The movement, I think it was something around 7 to 8% in last 20 years, and the similar kind of shift it has seen in a couple of months, right? So that is the kind of behavioral changes I would say we have seen. And now even post pandemic, that number won't settle down to the earlier one. There will be a shift from the earlier one. It will settle somewhere in between. Yeah.
Yeah. I
So
think
what
just
I'm,
to
yeah,
sorry,
go ahead,
go
Chirag.
ahead,
No, no,
Chirag.
go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
just
No, no, go
wanted
ahead. No, no. Yeah, yeah.
just wanted to add, I think, what to what Mitchell and Ashish said. You know, one was that we are all seeing that this is a secular trend,
Yeah.
which is happening. And I come from those days, when I used to be at Bombay Shaving Company, running this consumer product brand, to now running an e-commerce enablement company. The world has changed to, when we used to interact with some of these global giants in 2018-19, what digital as a budget we used to get is that what is remaining or what is parked outside of offline is now left over for digital. So now what has changed is that first it has become a digital first budget,
Yeah.
right? So that's been the tectonic shift in terms of thinking, in terms of, how do you approach. So that's one, I think, which I wanted to add. And I think Mitchell made a very good point, that while there is massive shift in terms of channels, in terms of, the way content is being consumed today, etc., but the core, at least the good part, is the consumer motivation isn't changing.
Yeah.
Right. We are still looking for those core intrinsic things, the value of we getting accepted, looking good, etc., etc. Those things are not getting changed.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty as a marketer. If you are hooked to that, and
Yeah.
those core basic instincts are not changing, then you can easily continue to build on top of it.
So I think we all agree that I think there are some changes which are going to be permanent, and there are going to be some which are just trends and temporary, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's an interesting point, Chirag, you made about budgets, and I think no better than Bharat to tell us what's the POV on digital budgets. Is this again a temporary phenomena, or is it going to stay? Are brands spending a lot more on digital?
So I think there are quite of industry reports which got released in India, and if I just see from a global lens also, VAC released the last quarter data at a global level. So globally, I think the correlation is quite evident that the consumer engagement is happening on digital platforms, social commerce, video streaming, gaming, and this is where the global spends are happening. Most of the markets have already seen decline on the mainline budgets, whether it's cinema, out of home, due to obvious reasons, but some of these behaviors, what the fellow panelists mentioned a few minutes back, are, I would say, going to stay here because there is a new economies which is being built over the last 2 years, whether it's the creator economy, which is helping brands to build the brand digital first with the help of content approach. There is the social commerce channel, which actually accelerated the e-commerce strategy and helping both consumer navigate the complex ecosystem, and the journey is getting simplified. And then I think the disruption which some of the verticals saw because of this pandemic, whether it's retail or auto category, where they were forced to actually digitalize, whether it's the dealership or a retail trade trying to identify how to connect with the consumer in the pandemic world. So some of these behavior actually have seen a quite significant growth when it comes to digital investment. And most of the reports, I think, is clearly talking about digital becoming the number one medium. Advanced markets, we already see how most of the digital devices, whether it's connected TV, digital out of home, audio, they bring a larger share from an economy point of view. But I think from a fact that India as a market, we are now seeing the burst happening from a linear TV towards CTV as a narrative. But if we go with the current stats itself, without CTV becoming a larger share of the spend, digital as a channel has already surpassed the linear TV spends because of the multiple reasons what we just spoke about. So spends going to continue to increase. Also, we need to see that over the last 2 years in this pandemic, there is again a larger boost of digital spends coming from D2C funded by the VCs. So all these new age brands, or even if you talk about the entirely new category which was being built on digital, which is the crypto economy. Most of these crypto exchanges are also fueling the digital spends right now in our market. And we will continue to see like the big ticket event sponsorships, what we call in India, would majorly be dominated by these digital first D2C brands. So definitely the spends have increased significantly. The proportion is going to stay here because the medium has already proved and the ROI in some or other format, whether it's through end-to-end attribution models, whether it's direct marketing concept, and somewhere down the line, the promise what digital gave, which is the addressable audience, is I think the flavor of what the marketers are looking forward from linear TV and other mediums as well, how they can identify an audience which is more addressable, more measurable, irrespective whether they are putting their spends on mainline or offline. I think the time spent has also increased, right? So the audience has also increased, the time spent on the digital media has increased. So in general, you have more audience to target, right? Yeah. And in fact, I remember when the pandemic just started, that time the kind of CPM rates you were getting on, let's say, Google or Facebook were highly cheap, right? So even it was like 10% of what you were actually getting in a normal competitive times. Obviously, that is not true today, but there was a time when a lot of companies pulled off their budgets. They were not really spending a lot, and if you are the one who was spending that time, I think it's a great opportunity. Yeah.
I think, organic is a great buzzword, but you really need to get a bang for your buck. And that's only that much that an organic traction can give you. So investments will increase for sure, because we all know there's a cognitive ad block in the minds of our customers, right? So how do we break that? How do we channelize our monies into the right direction? We need to be very clear in setting our objectives, right? What are we targeting? What are we gunning for? Is it reach? Is it lead? Is it, sales? Or is just the awareness game that we are playing? And once we have identified our objectives, and if you run behind your objectives that are identified, I think if you put your money in the right place, you're really going to reap the benefits. So I agree. I completely agree with Bharat that spends are going to increase. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So that I think digital also suffers from over tracking and everything is really measured, right? And so I think everything is going to tie back into ROI, right? And this question is incomplete without understanding how are we going to navigate in a cookieless world that is going to become increasingly difficult to track and target the consumer, right? And then are we going to probably hold back and say, hey, what digital promise it's not delivering, and it's better to stay on to the mediums that we know.
So maybe I can go first. I think measurement is a big challenge in the current space also. And as we progress into a more privacy-first, cookie-less world with more identity depreciation happening, which is, I think, a good sign, to be very honest, because the misuse of cookie is been happening over the last 2 decades. And that small text file sitting in our systems, which is making most of the decisioning in terms of the ad targeting and measuring the ROI, was actually being misused by a lot of organizations in terms of not getting a proper consent, or how the daisy chain of data was being evolved from one player to another player. So I think it's a good sign that based on the public concern, the government regulations, and some of the initiatives which the big giants are bringing to safeguard their walls and making it more thicker, more taller, for data to be protected securely, is a good initiative. On the measurement side, I think how we see solutions coming up. So there is one of the quite commonly used solution, which we all called as clean rooms. So most of these big giants are offering data clean rooms where we can actually do a lot of audience modeling to understand how the consumer engaged with the brand when they were exposed. We can actually do a lot of customer matching to understand people who have recently purchased the product. What was the frequency exposure? What's an optimal reach frequency that we need to manage on a platform A versus platform B? So this is one of the use cases which is happening right now at an aggregated level, not at one-to-one measurement level, which is the whole science behind moving into a privacy-first world. So that's one of the solution. The other side, what we are seeing is that as a brand more focused on first-party data, and this first-party data, which has been stressed enough as the gold mine for each of the brand identity, because if you are not going to focus on your first party data, someone is else going to steal that away. So as brands continue to focus more on first party data, I think the measurement journey will start from their proprietary or in-house CDPs, CRMs, to understand consumer better from a lens, not just how to segment the consumer in terms of what messaging they are doing, but also to understand the exposure, what is being done, the journey, what is being tracked, and how it has impacted in terms of their ROI. So clearly right now the market is divided into two parts. One is more of audience modeling approach, which is predictive side of marketing, using clean rooms, using CDPs. The other side is definitely how we continue to build and harness the existing first party, and build some sort of attribution models which give us a clear indication whether the spends that we are putting on digital on the channel is the right way or not.
So, in terms of first-party data, I don't get a sense that brands are doing enough to build the first-party data. I think e-commerce brands, D2C brands are already, by the nature of the business, they already have a lot of robust first-party data. But what about brands who are not actively offering the e-commerce channel? What about them? Is there any other approach to build that first party data? Any of you would want to take this up?
I would just first add that I think it's become imperative that one has to have the digital channel, right? I have seen the narrative change from not having one to what is the ROI for this, how does the PNL fit, to now at least what Bharat is saying, that it has become a strategically important angle. And as we move or as we deepen our this trend of moving towards a cookieless world, or where first party data has become even more important, you will see that. And what I think Bharat was saying, that doesn't this further takes the trend of direct to consumer in terms of the investment which the sector has got even further, right? Wherein the first party gets important. Now you can use that data. So at least the way I am seeing is further investments into CRM, into some of those tools to be used so that you can start to enhance this data into multiple your channels. At least that's how I am looking at it.
No, so that also, yeah,
Sorry, yeah, Jaitan, just to answer, you asked about what are the frameworks when it comes to first party, because everyone is just talking that there is enough focus, but how to start that journey, right? If we see, there are frameworks which actually tells you at which stage your organization is right now. Are you in the nascent stage where you're still exploring what all data sources you have? As a brand, do you have offline data source which you want to convert into an online identifier? Or your brand already is sitting on a lot of online identifier, but you're not able to bring it back to your old school CRM. So that's how first step is to identify which stage your organization is, so that you get the right key stakeholders, both from the tech side as well as from the marketing leadership side. Second is you need to identify which vertical a brand fall in, because every vertical has a different use case when it comes to the value exchange. The whole idea behind first party is that customers are looking to do some value exchange in doing a barter. When you're asking a customer to give a first party data, whether it's the PII information, email, phone, or further details about marital status or whatever the brand is looking, if the value exchange is there, example in CPG category, most of our brands, we are now migrating them into a digital first sampling approach. So old school traditional sampling, any which ways, is a big no because of the measurement challenges and what happened in the pandemic, because of the distribution concerns. So digital first sampling is one way where CPG can actually start doing digital first sampling, partner with a logistics partner who actually helps do end-to-end mile management of warehousing, delivery, product feedbacks, everything. And that's how you start generating your first party. In other categories like auto, there is the loyalty programs which is coming up. So because some of the brands didn't started the journey earlier when it comes to first party building, and they already have a large customer base who own that OEM, so they're bringing them back into a loyalty program. If you own this vehicle, if you own this brand, we are building a loyalty program for you, a community where you can engage, you can participate, some sort of a gamification contest. So this is where your existing customers also come back into a loyalty program and start sharing the first party data at the regular intervals. So multiple frameworks are available, depend on what stage the brand in and which category you fit in. That's how you can identify the right value exchange. Without value exchange, I think it would not be in the benefit of the customer to share first party.
Got it. I think one of the things which we have actually noticed and have actually moved in that direction is, so earlier when you used to think about marketing or maybe digital marketing for that matter, it used to be thought like Chirag was mentioning, it's just an arm for a marketing team, right? So traditional marketers would assume that digital is just one another channel, right? And it's not it. But what we have felt is it requires a whole lot of different skill set and basically the different kind of team you need, right? So when you are processing such huge amount of data, so you need to actually think about digital marketing more like a product and a tech function, plus obviously the marketing side of it, where you understand consumers, what they want, how do you need to serve them, what all platforms you will find them on, that still stays there. But the understanding from how these data exchanges will happen, how you send data to share data across platforms in a near real time scenario, right? It requires more like a product and a product manager kind of thought process, right? Or somewhat of technical expertise to basically handle this. So I think that kind of change also people should envision in their teams, rather than because for someone who is just a marketing guy, right, it becomes generally somewhat difficult if you don't have that kind of background. So I think that's also will need to be taken into consideration.
Actually, that's a very good point that you made. Saying that brands need to start looking at digital as a separate product, function, and you need specialized team.
Yeah.
That brings us to two questions: saying, is there enough talent out there? Is talent an issue to build a team like that? And two, our marketers, has a shift of lens happened, right? I mean, marketing is still looked upon as an investment function. It's a function which is not looked upon as an investment, as a cost center, right? So, so are you seeing brands adapting to this in India? Is in the near term, do you think a large consumer brand is willing to build a team which is like a product team, like you mentioned, or are we a long way in this journey?
So actually that depends upon how digital marketing teams actually project themselves inside the organization, right? Whether they are seen as a cost center like the traditional marketing team, or they are seen like more like an ROI driver, right? In the previous session, I think we were talking about ROI, right? So I think what separates an average digital marketer from an expert digital marketer is basically not just the understanding about digital marketing, but how well you understand technology, one, and the second one is how well you understand the company's business, right? A lot of digital marketers I meet, they're great at the digital marketing metrics, jargons, right? But they're not very thorough with what exactly the business their company does, right? How do they really make money? So till the time you don't get to that stage, you will be a average digital marketer, I would say, right? Till the time you get an understanding how your marketing is actually helping the company grow, right? What metrics were you chasing? Those metrics cannot be just reach, frequency, or any other marketing related metric. It has to be a business related metric. Once you, with your marketing investment, start to move the business metrics, obviously the confidence across the organization grows immensely, right? The problem has been in the past is marketing teams generally don't own the business metrics, right? So if you own the business metric, if you show the results, then it is no longer a cost center, right? You say I invested 5 crores, I got business worth of 7 crores, then obviously everyone will be like, yeah, spend 10 crores, why not 10 crores, right? So I think if you tend to get that kind of ROI setting inside the organization, I think the budgets are infinite.
I
I
just
think
want to
that
add to what Ashish has just said. I do agree with Ashish that, we need to define the ROI and you need to have stronger matrices. But a slight different approach, right? So it's not always sales driven, right? Digital plays a very important role in reputation building, right? So building a safety net for yourself, and no amount of spends could build a reputation of an organization. So it's your year for a long time. You can't just measure everything in terms of your sales garnered. And we are all grappling with the same thing, whether it is communication or PR, trying to define whether, what is the ROI of that news article that you got in the newspaper, or it's a marketeer trying to justify that hoarding on the Bandra ceiling, right? So there is a certain amount of reputation building that you do. Like at Godrej, we have our own media platforms. We have set up an own media platform for our lifestyle brands called L'Affaire. Now, when we have all the reason why we set up this platform was very simple: to create content for brands, to have a common platform where all lifestyle brands celebrate together. It's a, non-competing brands can come and celebrate lifestyle, and to get the community together, right? Now, if you ask me if L'Affaire is giving you that amount of sales, may or may not, I won't be able to justify that. But has L'Affaire increased the reputation of the in terms of showcasing the lifestyle brands within Godrej? Yes, because there was a time where we were known to be a brand that sold locks and cupboards, to a time that consumer knows that we have fashion hair colors, and we are catering to every lifestyle brand, right? So that shift, no amount of spends can give you. So there's a lot that you could do in terms of reputation building. And clearly, there are organizations who are seeing digital as a very important vertical. There are teams being set up within organizations. We have a digital spoke within all our brands who are only thinking digital, and there's no rocket science, right? So you pick up, everyone have their social media handles. What's working for them on their social media handles will be exactly what works for them for their brands, right? So we saw there was a 10% increase in how to use learning videos during the lockdown. Everyone wanted to know how to cook, how to color, and brands immediately latched onto that, and they started creating how to hair color videos, how to prepare this chicken with real good chicken videos, and it worked well for us, right? So I see that there is no dearth of talent. There are a lot of youngsters who are thinking digital, and see, digital natives, and especially the younger generation, they are digital natives. They think in that direction. They know what's going to work, what's not going to work. So I see a lot of teams going to give a lot of focus to digital, more than a cost center. Look at a digital resource as a part of the marketing team.
Got it. I would maybe clarify myself a little bit. So when I said ROI, I mean, one is performance ROI, right? When you run performance marketing, that is purely sales-ish, I would say, right?
Yeah.
But for other campaigns also, right? One should, in fact, before the start of a campaign, should be able to define what metric should say this is a success or this is a failure, right? We can't be running something just for the sake of it, right? So even in the case when you created content, we will have, I'm sure you would also have things like how we will define the success of this activity, let's say 3 months down the line. Some activities give you instant gratification in terms of metrics moving. Some are a longer term thing where you'll have to invest, let's say, for 1 year, right? So things like SEO, content marketing, they take a larger amount of time, right? And resources. But you'll have to have that conviction so that a year down the line or 6 months down the line, you evaluate that and say that whether this was a success, not success, super successful, or average activity. I think that kind of understanding is really helpful. Yeah.
True.
I think just to add to, I think the first part of your question was that how is the tech, or I think Ashish mentioned that the digital is going to become even more, adaptive with new talent required, and might need to, take some form of a product or a digital product kind of a lens. I think the way, at least I am seeing the space evolve is that, you will see a lot many tools emerge, which will double up for this talent and, cover up for the talent gap and become digital first products or enablement products, right? Which we term as enablement. Both from marketing sides, like globally, we have seen, Klaviyo do it, Attentive do it. Similarly, I'm starting to see a lot of companies emerge in India. On the e-commerce enablement space, we do some amount of job. There are many companies which are trying to improve the funnel, right? And I typically, what Ashish was saying, I typically divide the CAC into two parts. One is, you get me lower CPC. The second is, can you convert better? Right? You will see companies emerge in both, trying to solve via tech products, solve both parts of the problem in different ways.
Right. So, Chirag, that brings us to the next question: is there, in terms of building the technologies, the MarTech stack, right, which has been the chatter for a while, right? But has that again? Are you seeing acceleration of that? Are brands out there building, are now seriously building their whole marketing stack? Are they investing in various tools like the ones that you mentioned in terms of improving their CAC or retargeting or managing their data better? Or are we still, are we seeing that this has happened in bursts, but it's not a very planned and a sustained approach?
I don't know whether I am the right person for this, but at least let me take a shot at it. At least I am seeing this emerge in Western countries in a more methodological manner. India still seems to be, catching up in terms of adopting to different tools, etc., etc. But I think why I see this as a sustained move is just because the amount of investment which has gone into some of these digital mediums will, of course, warrant newer development of such tools which will make it efficient. And you will see better ROI in adoption of these tools. So that's how I look at it at the moment. At least the brands which we work with, and what I have seen, it has been sporadic. Those investments haven't been methodological, that I need to invest in, let's say, a state of the art analytics tool, state of the art CRM tool, and it's basic for me to operate. Still people are testing, okay, what is going to be is measurement really required, or what will this lead to? Some of those things at least are still, I would say, early shoots are visible.
So I think, Chetan, on my side, from an agency point of view, the investment is already happening because we have a separate vertical and a separate division with the name called Analect, which works most on the MarTech deployment tools, technology, dashboarding. And I think if you just take a step back, while we are referring to pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, pre-pandemic, I think the old truth was marketing begins knowing your customer. And the new truth now, if you talk to anyone, is marketing begins if you know your customer segment. So if you want to know about which segment your customer fall in, you need a tech stack, whether it's a basic CDP or a DMP. So most of the investments, what we are seeing right now, global brands definitely investing into the blue chip CDPs like Salesforce, Telium. That's one of the economy which is already happening. But if I talk about India as a market as well, earlier when we used to have an engagement with brand that, hey, we need a single view of customer to help you connect what you're buying, how your Google Analytics is responding, how the footfalls are happening in offline. So this is one dashboard. These are some API connectors. This is the cost. Most of the brands used to like the concept, and the ask was, can you build this out for free? Because we are your agency partner. This should come as a package and all that. And we all knew the reality that most of these MarTech investments have a monthly cost attached to it. But now I think the conversations have changed. Most of the brands with whom we are engaging, when we talk about that this tool will add these types of ROI, they're happy to pay for the tool. They're able to see what that ROI the tool brings in the first 3 months, first 6 months, 9 months. And while we were all discussing, I was able to see some of your backgrounds, which has the Pixus logo. So we are also using Pixus, which is our homegrown AI tool. And again, this is one of the example where the basic AI tool, if you're deploying on Google Ads or Facebook, is able to bring you better efficiency, better ROI on your lower funnel. So if a tool is able to decrease your cost per lead, sales, conversions by 10 to 15%, I think it's a good example how a brand can start with a small initiative just by deploying a targeting, a governance, or a creative AI tool, and then maybe understanding how much more the investment they need to continue to get a better ROI. So it's already happening.
Right. No, I agree with you, Bharat. We are also seeing a lot of shift in brands wanting to adapt technology and looking to understand the consumer a lot better. But that also brings us to the communication, right? I think there was a shift in the way brands communicated during this whole period. I think everybody took a more. I think there was more focus on being empathetic to the customer and communicating, which has certain value. And I think digital there played a lot more role because there were a lot of long format content that you could create, or like as Michelle mentioned, one example of saying how to make chicken videos, learning videos which brands created with the whole sole purpose of adding value to consumers life. Now this shift in this communication, purpose driven communication, is this here to stay, or we're seeing this as a trend? What's the communication shift that you guys are seeing in the post pandemic world?
So I'll take this. Purpose driven communication was a good thing that we learned during the lockdown, but it has its own pros and cons, right? So I would change this to authentic communications, and I would like to say it's not about being empathetic, but sharing the real story. And we have burnt our fingers, right? So our intent was very right. When the pandemic hit us, we launched a hand washing anthem for our hand washing brand, and we had kids go and teach how to wash your hands and stay safe, stay protected. And then you had a nice little video that your creative agency had delivered with kids running outdoor, playing and celebrating and singing this song. We had to pull it down because it's a nice intent, but when we are facing these challenges, and especially when kids are locked indoor, you're having these kids running about without masks and singing this song, may not be the right time to deliver this message, right? So we went and distributed hand washes and hand sanitizers. We were seen opportunists, like. So it's about being empathetic, saying the right thing, but marketers need to understand their ABC of communication, right? You need to be authentic, and your brand needs to be believable. You just can't do it for the sake of doing it because it's the time to do it. But when you're authentic, you're believable, then it's going to connect with the right audience as well. And then you need to have that consistency, right? I have always spoken about it, and hence I'm talking about it. It makes sense. At Godrej, we always put people and planet alongside profit, right? So now if I go and say I am talking about sustainable, yes, I have the mangroves out here and I'm supporting the mangroves for so many years, and yes, we have sustainable brands to back it. But tomorrow you start talking about sustainability and your entire brand portfolio is not sustainable, there is a serious issue. So yes, purpose driven is important, and communication during these times had changed. But we need to be very, very careful of greenwashing, right? So it can face a lot of backlash.
Agreed. I think we saw a lot of those examples, like you mentioned, saying there is supposed to be social distancing and you're not showing that in your ad.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's there to stay. But I think what we are now communicating is with a very well-aware customer who's has a very strong voice, and I think digital is also giving that platform to have that two-way communication, right? So I think brands would have to going ahead invest a lot more in managing the reputation, as we say, right? And I think that probably is here to stay. But I think also the whole digital landscape is also changing, right? And I think the timing is just it's just coinciding with we coming out of the pandemic and the whole metaverse, which is out there, right? So what is your POV on all of this? And I'd like to hear from all of you. What do you think about how our brands navigate metaverse? We're also seeing so much chatter on NFTs now. Again, our brand's going to be able to leverage NFTs, or it's just right now a new shiny toy which everybody's latching on, but at some point it is going to lose its sheen.
I think it's a marketer's paradise. I really feel that it's here to stay. We are all going to learn, for sure. We're going to learn. It's a great opportunity for us. It's going to be the next gen internet for us. And there was a time where we all realized that, virtually, we never ever thought that we could have this virtual panel discussion. Right? So we got used to it. So it will take time, but I think marketeers should be all geared to welcome metaverse with open arms and start thinking right now, because if you don't do it now, then you're not going to do it, right? So I think it's really going to be, we really need to look forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's very, very early time right now. We can't really predict what will happen, but yeah, like you said, we should be open to it as a concept, and then see how it pans out, really, right?
So at this stage, like most of you, the fellow panelists mentioned, I think it's quite early. Right now, it's more in the imagination stage, which we all brand managers love to imagine how we fit our brand into this metaverse. So gaming as one of the concepts, we are already seeing a lot of use cases coming out. E-commerce also putting out a phygital narrative where you shop in the metaverse, get the physical product out in the real world, and then some of the brands started the narrative shop in metaverse for metaverse. No actual product delivery. The product will be only used in the metaverse games. But overall, I think the concept, what we see is metaverse is going to be more, I would say, powerful than anything else when it comes to Web 3.0.
Yeah.
And we would definitely see it growing, not just around one company as a central organization taking an advantage to it, but the whole digital community and economy, especially the creator economy, which has already started building virtual worlds, designing cities for us in the metaverse, would be, I would say, the early adopters and the brands who have already started navigating, doing at least a little bit A/B testing to understand what role their brand can play, whether the brand should be part of creator economy or an experience economy or a solution economy, would be the winner of this metaverse race.
In fact, not even today, right? If you even look back, let's say 10, 12 years, right? Uh, Games, there were popular games by Zynga, like Farmville, some of the other games. I haven't played them, but yeah, I know people used to like spend their real money to buy stuff inside the games, right? And there are even followers to that even today, right? They will spend their real money to get some virtual gifts inside the games, right? So inside the games, it's already happening. But I generally find it a little bit. I'm actually not able to connect to that piece. Even buying something in the metaverse and getting a physical product delivered to you, that's still consumable for me. But buying a virtual thing inside a virtual world and then consuming it there, I think we are just extrapolating it too much. I don't know whether people really want to do that, but I fail to understand the real what pleasure would somebody derive, like let's say buying virtual things from your real money, right? And generally these are younger people, right? You will find 18-20-year-olds or 15-year-olds spending money to get some virtual stuff inside the games.
Yeah. So I think there are people who are spending virtual money, real money to buy virtual merchandise, right? So it's a fad. I feel it's a brag value.
It's a brag value. It has brag value.
Yeah, it has a brag value, and there will be people who will be interested to do that. And you have fans, you have look at how people are crazy over Bollywood in our country, right? And if you get an avatar of your favorite Bollywood star or even a merchandise, there will be people who will go bonkers to buy it. So I see that there is an opportunity, and like you said, gaming is one platform, but I think it will go beyond gaming.
Yeah, it will go because I think
go beyond gaming.
People have a lot of time, a lot of internet, money, so they will spend.
Yeah.
No, I think talking about gaming, I think gaming was one area which was completely saw acceleration of growth right during the pandemic. I think casual gaming became really, really huge.
Yeah.
And even I think it saw a lot of new users jumping onto games, right? So do you see a trend that brands will now get serious about creating their own IPs, gaming IPs in that sense, to ride this wave, because gaming is not slowing down at all, and I think metaverse is just is going to give it impetus, right? And the growth is going to continue. What we're also seeing is that a lot of your smart television and a lot of your connected devices allow you to also game on a larger screen and use your mobile device as a second screen of sorts. So it's a great opportunity for brands, but do you see brands leveraging it, or they are happy to just be passive, maybe sponsors or passive participants rather than creating IPs?
I think it's a great opportunity. We had launched something called as Godrej Gojio. I think it was too early to launch that. Internet was a challenge. And that time I still remember, I had spoken to people who used to play Godrej Gojio 20 hours a day.
20 hours?
20 hours a day. So there is a brand opportunity for sure. I don't see a lot of brands integrating themselves as of now. So maybe that's a huge space to be in, because you have a lot of these games that are doing a lot of role playing, right? So I see my daughter playing a lot of games, and she buys outfits and we are paying for that. So we know what a brag value it is and what it is for that youngster. But I also see that there is a lot of opportunities for brand to integrate themselves, but the clutter is so much that there are so many games available right now. So I don't know, I think in days to come, there will be brands that will integrate themselves very subtly and smartly in games as well. No one wants to play a Godrej game. No one wants to play a Reliance game. You can't just take the brand out there and put it, but there are smarter ways of doing that. And once I think brands crack that, I think it'll be really great.
I've seen a lot of, let's say, e-commerce companies integrating games inside their journeys, right? So inside their app, you play a game, you win something, and then you encash that to a coupon or something, right? So not necessarily very, very heavy IPs being developed by them, but like a very, very lightweight games, like a copter where you traverse and then you get something after that, right? So those kind of games we have seen like inside some of the e-commerce apps, right? They are trying to engage people and then giving something to them after they complete a certain stage, right? And then that is being used onto the platform. So I think people will try multiple versions. Let's see what actually the users get hooked on to.
Yeah.
Completely agree with both. I think Vijay and Ashish, it's more casual gaming when it comes to brand investing and creating a gamified version. Mostly it's campaign related, I would say. So it's a little bit siloed approach, not a always on strategy what we're seeing. But I think if we just see on the other side, the overall gaming community, what we call. So on our side, we call them unreachables, because if you just do a little bit more research, in Asia Pacific, there are now 1.6 billion gamers. India, it's 300 million plus gamers. India, definitely, these are the current stats of the people who are actually spending quite significant gaming, and you cannot reach out to them on a CTV or a audio or a YouTube or a Facebook platform. So they are unreachables. India as a market is 300 million plus gamers, but predominantly mobile as a device which is being used, not the gaming consoles and the CTV. The shift will happen in India as well, how we've seen in other economies. So from a strategy point of view, it's already, I would say, a high time where brands should think about gaming or a gamer strategy separately, not just thinking this as another line item in the media plan for one of the campaign because they feel they want to target a young demographic. If you do more deeper research, in India, most of the time on Candy Crush is being spent by 25 to 40 females, housewives, during the afternoon. So on Candy Crush, the peak time is the afternoon, noon time, which also showcase that it's not just the younger demographic. There is a wider demographic who is spending a lot more time in gaming. So definitely brands should start investing more when it comes to gaming as an overall concept, whether they feel that they want to integrate their brand by creating a game or participating in a esports tournament or in-game advertising. There are multiple opportunities based on which category you fall in and what type of segment that you're looking in.
Agreed.
Awesome. So I think this brings us to the our last question and last parting shot from all of you. What changes you would like to see in digital marketing in the post-pandemic world? Any of you can go first.
I think pre-pandemic, brands used to compete with their competitor, which still continue to exist. But I think post-pandemic, there is a new competition which has arisen, which is about you have to compete with your last best experience that you deliver to that customer. So customers are now looking a better experience every time they shop with you, they engage with you. So you need to actually deliver better than the previous experience what you built for them, whether it's an offline environment or a digital environment. So I would just leave on that note.
I think you need to have a stronger measurement matrix for sure. We need to really conquer micro markets, and we have not done that enough. And how we go about doing that, we really need to fasten our seatbelts for metaverse and see what's in store for us. There's enough and more content available out there. I would really think that we should figure out as marketeers, how can we refurbish, repackage our existing content in a smarter way and share it with our consumers. We should start small, but look out for scale, right? So it's when you are marketing, it's not about coming there big bang and say, hey, we are here. Take baby steps, but your vision should be, you should definitely have the bigger picture in mind. And if you don't execute fast and adapt with time, I think we'll be redundant. So it's high time that we really need to be agile enough, be flexible enough, execute fast, and you're set for success for sure.
Ashish, any thoughts?
I generally think of it more like a test and learn kind of approach, right? So you keep testing things, you keep learning from those experiments, right? And then iterate your way forward, right? So I think that is something which I feel in the digital world works very well, right? Because testing is easier. Testing gives you confidence on numbers, right? Because you know what works and by how much, right? So I think for me, it is more around keep testing new things, and like Michelle also said, execute it faster, right? Otherwise, so do a lot of tests very frequently, and then learn from them, and then incorporate that into your product, right? So I think that's something. So like, let's say metaverse, right? You'll have to test it, right, with a small use case, and then see if that works for your consumer base or not right now. So I think that constant testing and learning kind of thing helps a lot with the digital platforms in general.
Agreed. I think to summarize, I think what we need is, I think, agility, customer experience, and constant iteration. And I think it's a ever evolving medium. So thank you very much, all of you. It was great chatting with you all, and some really insightful thoughts.
Thank you, Chetan.
Thank you very much.
I'm still
Chetan,
worried
for
about
having us.
those kids who were playing 20 hours of gaming.
Ashish, I was equally surprised.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all the valuable inputs. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for this meaningful session, and it was really a insightful session actually, if I could. Well, that brings us to the end of the Indian Digital Brand Fest Summit Day 2. And once again, I would like to thank our partners for their tremendous support. Our industry presenting partner Woot, our industry partner Interact, a product of GeoHaptic, Josh, and Pixis. The event is produced and executed by ITV 2.0 Productions. We start with the Digital Brand Fest Summit Day 3 tomorrow from 2:30 p.m. onwards. Kindly check the agenda for the Day 3 on our website. On behalf of IndianTelevision.com Group, I would like to thank all the speakers and viewers for taking out your time to join us today. We hope you had a fruitful time. Do share your feedback with us. Use the hashtag Digital Brand Fest 2021 in your post and tag our official handles. We can be found at ITV News on Twitter and Facebook, and indiantelevision.com on Instagram and LinkedIn. We look forward to e-host you tomorrow at 2:30. Thank you. Have a nice day.